To a very special edition of tonight's virtual $1 trillion mixer here with Quest Trust Company. My name is Haley Gant, and I actually have a few special speakers joining me tonight, Nathan Long, Jeff Watson, and John Hyre. But before we get started with tonight's main presentation, we actually have a really special promotion going on this month. I think it is actually Nathan's favorite promotion that we have ever ran in the entire history of our company. So we have a quick video that we want to play for you guys. So Juan, if you can cue up that video, we're going to play that, and then we'll get right into tonight's main presentation.
My goodness, another crazy day at the stock market. With all this uncertainty, how on earth am I going to feel comfortable retiring? There has to be a better way to invest my money safely.
There is.
Who said that?
The disembodied voice in your kitchen.
Oh my! Wait, what other way is there?
It's something called a self-directed IRA.
A self-directed IRA?
Yes.
Well, what does it do then, huh?
This IRA allows you to use your 401k and IRA money to invest in alternative assets, such as real estate, notes, and private entities. The stock market can be volatile, and having alternative investments that you are knowledgeable about in your IRA provides a lot less fluctuation and helps diversify your portfolio, so you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Well, that sounds like a swell idea. How do I get one of those?
All you have to do to get started is open up an IRA with Quest Trust Company. You can call one of our certified IRA specialists at 855-FUN-IRAs and submit an application online now.
How grand! I think I'll call them right now.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Don't get burned by the stock market this summer. When you open an account with Quest Trust Company, we'll send you a free toaster. That's right. When you open an account right now with Quest Trust Company, you will get a free toaster. Use promo code TOASTER, right? And call 855-FUN-IRAs and talk to a certified IRA specialist right now.
Okay, John, you're grinning at me, but that's marketing genius at its best. I'm just going to point that out.
I love it. I love it.
Oldies but goodies, man.
The only
I
problem
will
is
say,
my staff is so young, they didn't understand the reference to giving away a free toaster with a bank account.
My wife's a foreigner. I just explained it to her as well.
Yeah, like it didn't work. I said, our clients will get it. They're my age.
and I tell you what, they do. I've given several presentations since then, and the older the average age is in the room, the more they appreciate the promotion. So it's a lot of fun. Guys, for all of our attendees out there, I'm going to take back over for a second. So speakers, you'll get plenty of time to talk in a second. We're doing a promotion all month long. June is almost over. If you want a free toaster on Quest, it literally has our logo on it. It makes toast. What more could you ask for? Reach out to us, set up a free consultation with an IRA specialist, and we can walk you through the intricacies of self-directed IRAs, how they might apply to your personal situation. And if you learn about something that you think is interesting tonight, give us a call. A lot of our IRA specialists are well-versed on all of these topics that we are going to speak here about tonight. But give us a call. We'll give you a free toaster. And I will say we are single-handedly selling out Amazon on these free toasters. So get them while they are hot. No pun intended. So I do have a few quick announcements for you guys tonight. I am going to keep this quick because our experts are eagerly awaiting with their wine to drink, let us know how it is, and share some valuable knowledge with us here tonight. But if it's one of your first time joining our webinars here with Quest Trust Company, at the core of our business, we are a self-directed IRA custodian. So we teach investors how to utilize those old 401ks and IRAs to really diversify and invest into assets outside of the stock market. So at Quest, our clients use their IRAs to invest into real estate, notes, and private placements, and other types of privately held assets. One of the biggest benefits of this is it allows you to shelter some of your own investments from income taxes. All of the money that you make from these investments with your IRA actually goes back into the account, potentially without being taxed at all. So give us a call if you have questions. We are one of the nation's leaders in self-directed IRA education, and we have about $2 billion in assets under our management. That is all privately held assets that our clients self-direct their IRAs into. So we kind of know a thing or two about self-directed IRAs, and we really enjoy putting on a lot of education on our platforms every single week. Now, along with this does come a disclaimer. This is so important. Really cannot stress this enough. At Quest, we do not give tax, legal, or investment advice. We provide a lot of education. We bring in a lot of different guest speakers, but please be aware to do your own due diligence before you enter into investments. Make sure to take the time to make sure you're seeking the right legal counsel for your documents. Vet the people that you're working with, and please do not rush into investments, whether it's with your own funds or your IRA funds. Again, really cannot stress that enough. Now, tonight's event is just one of many educational events that we host here at Quest. We have webinars, we have a YouTube channel, we have several articles on our website, and we host a lot of webinars every single week. Now, I am really excited to announce that we are officially bringing back our in-person events this August in our Texas offices. So in Houston, Austin, and Dallas, we will be doing a monthly lunch and learn in each city, and we'll be doing a monthly mixer in each city as well. Now, for all of you, I know, right? It's so exciting. Now, for all of you guys watching from outside of the state of Texas, or if you're unable to make it to any of our events, go to our YouTube channel, go to the events page on our website. We will continue to live stream all of our events that we do right now. Even once they're in person, you'll be able to watch them online, just like you have been for the last year and probably longer. Now, our biggest event that we have coming up this July is our July Summer Intensive. This will actually be our last big online conference that we are doing, probably until about the end of the year, if not longer than that. So it's a 3-day summer intensive. It's half days. It's Friday mornings on July 16th, 23rd, and 30th. And for a $25 ticket price, you get the recordings of all 3 days. This is going to be a high-level event. I have actually specifically asked our speakers to not bring their basics presentations to this. So it'll be more in-depth. It'll be about all 3 different investment types that you can actually do with an IRA. And at the end of each day, we're actually going to bring out some of our transactions managers to give a short presentation of how you can actually do these investments in an IRA. And I'm really excited. It'll be the first event of this kind that we've hosted. And I know that we get a lot of current clients watching these events. So if you are a current Quest client and you have friends or family that may benefit from even just going through a consultation with us, make sure to refer them over to Quest, and you'll each get a $25 credit when they open up their account and use the promo code referral. Now, I know that was quick. That was a lot of information. If you guys have questions, reach out to us. I do actually have Katie here tonight with me, who's also in our marketing department. You guys will see her posting some links and our contact information there in the chat. But if you have questions, let us know. We are more than happy to answer them for you. But without further ado, let's really go ahead and get into tonight's main event. Now, I do want to start out by mentioning that Quincy unfortunately was not able to join us tonight, but we do still have 3 speakers that have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. They all have their own specialties. So I do want to give each speaker a minute to go ahead and introduce themselves. We'll start it out kind of in order that you guys go on the screen. Nathan, you'll go first, then John, and then Jeff.
Well, first I want to apologize for Quincy. A lot of you in the audience might know that Quincy does have Parkinson's, and most days he gets the best of it. Like, he works and does so much stuff and is so active, but sometimes it gets to him, and he just couldn't make it tonight. And he was really sad about that. Mostly sad because he wanted to spend most of the night picking on John. And now that Quincy's not here, I'm not sure who John's going to pick on. Hopefully it's Jeff and not me. So we'll see how that works out. I didn't really plan a lot for tonight either, Haley, because I figured I was on stage with 3 lawyers. I wasn't going to get a chance to even speak. So,
Well, lucky you. Awesome. Oh, whoops. We're getting ahead of ourselves. All right, Nathan. Is that all you want to say? Do you want to introduce yourself at all? Cool. All right, we'll move right on. John, go ahead and take a minute to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, my name is John Hyre, Hyre. I'm a lawyer, accountant, investor in order of competence. Most of you are better at investing, but I'm much better at tax lawyering. And so I do a lot with self-directed IRAs, have for a while. Indeed, I can say this now. I mean, maybe he won't view it later. If he were on the call, I would never admit it. But Quincy actually had a formative influence, which does explain some of my issues. I'll just blame it on Quincy. So we do lawyer things for IRA clients all over the country, generally structuring transactions, looking at prohibited transactions, UBIT, various types of structures, et cetera. And so that's what I do. I mean, besides drink a lot and give Quincy a hard time and abuse others when he's not present.
Great introduction. Jeff?
Good evening. My name's Jeff Watson. I'm a lawyer, also licensed to practice law in the state of Ohio, privileged to be associated with Quest Trust in many different ways. I'm getting over a little bit of a head cold, so y'all are going to have to forgive me for this, but I consider Quincy and John Hyre to be 2 of the smartest guys in the space, and to consistently hang out with those guys, well, that's just a huge compliment. I blame people like Quincy Long and Dykes Bodiford for getting me hooked on IRAs. And like John is not a competitor. John is a colleague. And I love doing deals, structuring transactions with self-directed IRA. And if I have a particular forte in the space, it is lending out of a self-directed IRA account. I find great joy in structuring deals or in massaging deals going sideways, and I get a great deal of sadness, but occasionally I have to do it helping somebody who's got a deal that's gone bad, try and resuscitate it or limit the losses. That's my fun thing to do with self-directed IRAs. Most other than that, real estate I do a little bit of, but candidly, folks, if you're paying taxes on it, you bore me. You bore me. If you can't figure out a way how to do it with an IRA, then keep trying, because there's always a way to get it done with an IRA.
Awesome. Well, guys, that was a great introduction. I'm really excited for tonight. And of course, this being a wine tasting, I spent some time today to actually do some research about some wine statistics, what we should be doing. And we'll give a cheers in a second once you guys officially are tasting your first wine. But I did find a statistic today that I thought was really interesting and kind of relates to the self-directed IRA world. Wine grapes, in case you didn't know, are smaller, sweeter, and have thicker skins than normal grapes. There are over 1,300 wine grape varieties used in commercial production, but only 100 of these varieties make up 75% of the world's vineyards. Now, this kind of reminds me of a statistics to do with self-directed IRAs, and I think this is really interesting. Only 2% of IRAs in America are self-directed, yet 25% of all IRAs that are over $5 million are self-directed. So tonight we are going to be drinking a very small portion of the wines that are in production in the world, and we're going to teach you some things of information of the wealthy to help you guys build your IRA, build your own personal funds, and really kind of just diversify that money that you have and learn how to do it directly from the experts. So for tonight's wine tasting, we are going to swirl it, we're going to smell it, and we're going to sip it. So if you guys, John and Jeff, if you guys want to come back, we're going to go ahead and get into the first wine of tonight. And this is Stag's Leap Merlot. So this is a wine that we handpicked just for you guys. It is let me go back to my notes. I set them down too early. Stag's Leap Winery is actually one of the oldest wineries in California. It was established in 1893, and they specialize in Cabernet and Californian Merlot. So to all of our experts out there, I actually know that you guys got a bit of a head start on these wines. Let us know. Have you gotten a chance to taste it yet? What do you think? What aromas are you picking up from these? And then we'll get right into some of our first heavy hitting questions of the night.
To be fair, I haven't tasted any of the wines yet, though my wife's opened them all and tasted them all.
Yes. As she should.
The Stag Leafs Merlot is very nice. It's Jeff's favorite.
Yep. This is the one I chose to open to go well with tonight's call and to go well with dinner tonight. And I am enjoying it. It's probably the only one I'll actually sip tonight because you really want me to be coherent through the whole night, Haley.
I mean, I don't know. We'll
Interruption.
see how the night goes.
Wait a minute, interruption. Jeff, there was an event on a ship on the ocean.
Oh, Lord.
International waters, John. International waters apply.
But not like Vegas. It didn't stay there. It's not gonna. So it was a cruise with a number of people on it, and Watson and I were doing Q&A for the audience, but we decided to go have the captain's dinner, which happened to have several different wines with it, and the pours were not short. And so the Q&A, let's just say about 2.5 hours later, was interesting. So Watson, I think you should not just try all three. I think you should use a straw.
Are you saying that enhances my intelligence or enhances my liveliness? Which do you think it is?
I don't remember. I do not recollect.
Oh, you had too much wine that night to remember. I understand. Okay.
I just remember everybody enjoyed it because what little filter, well, you have more. You're better at filter than I am, but I think we both dropped a bit on the filter. I thought it was fun.
Oh, I know my filter went way down that night. I know it did. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And it was fun. It was a good night.
John Hyre's filter going down is scary.
Oh, yeah. Well, to know us is to love us, folks. To know us is to love us.
Yes. Maybe we'll find a happy median in that filter tonight. Not get too crazy, but I want to hear what you guys really think about these topics. So anyways, I think that's enough of that for the first wine for now. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And y'all have to bear with me tonight. I'm on a laptop showing you guys different wines and coming back to all of our faces. But let's go ahead and get into the first few questions. Basically, how tonight will work is I have several questions listed out, and we're going to go through a few questions for each different type of wine, and then we'll switch gears, go into the next wine, and I have some wine fun facts that I've researched today that I'll kind of try to throw in here and there as well. So, first question of the night is really, how did it all get started for you guys? How did you get started in the self-directed IRA world? Nathan, I'll let you answer this one first.
Oh, I think you should go to the other guys first because I think they were actually here first. I honestly didn't get into it until Quincy was well into it. And he's like, hey, I'm doing this. And I had mentioned that I had switched companies inside the company I was at, and I had access to my 401k. And I was like, hey, come over and do some investments. As soon as I saw what he was doing, I was like, man, you got a tiger by the tail. That is a business plan that needs to be developed. But I honestly, my early self-directed IRAs, I was just on the coattails of Quincy, like, oh, we're going to invest in a bank. Oh, we're going to do a hard money loan. Oh, we're going to, so they're not as exciting as you guys.
Well, let me dive in on this then. It goes way back for me. I would say 1983. One of my favorite uncles taught me an important lesson about learning the tax code. Now, I was 1 year out of high school when my uncle, who, by the way, lives north of Dallas, Texas, and he is one of the most influential men in my life, taught me about paying attention to taxes and figuring out a strategy how to minimize your taxes. So fast forward a bunch of years, I'm at a real estate seminar in 2004 in Nashville, Tennessee, and this other company is talking about self-directed IRAs, and I bought their little CD set because I wanted to know how to do it. And I got to tell you, I listened to every word on those CDs multiple times, trying to hear how to do the deals. Not what you can do, not what's possible. Don't give me the theory. Tell me how to do the deal. And they would never reveal the goods. And so I was really frustrated. And then lo and behold, 2010 rolls around and I suddenly get a flyer to go to Atlanta, Georgia. And there's these crazy guys by the name of Dykes Boterford and Pete Fortunato and Quincy Long talking. And for the first time, somebody said, here's how you do it, step by step by step. And I was like, the light bulb is on. I'm grabbing this bull by the horns and running with it. And so I began to do deals, and I made some horrible deals. And then I made a few good deals. And then I made another horrible deal. And then I made a few more good deals. And right now I'm just trying to make base hits and avoid strikeouts. That's all I'm trying to do. And I had lunch today with a dear friend of mine that I've been able to help him get some stuff rolling. And he's my role model because he literally took 6 figures in an IRA and in 7 years turned it to 7 figures. So, it can be done and we just rock on. That's my story.
My story is much more dull, as befits a tax lawyer. I was paid to learn all this, and I was given information that most of you would pay to see. So in the mid-2000s, I knew of it, right? I'm a tax attorney. I was really focused on real estate investors, which self-directed IRAs, for whatever reason, are super hot with real estate investors. It's funny, you talk to a lot of big dogs, Wall Street guys, Fortune 500 people, and they've never heard of it. I live in Puerto Rico. I meet a lot of hedge fund and venture capital type guys down here, and I'm shocked at the number of them who haven't heard of it. It blows me away. So it's a small investor thing. I got lucky. I happened to be in the right place at the right time, hanging out with real estate investors, and they started paying me to discuss it. So I thought I'd best learn about it. That does seem like, maybe the unlawyerly but ethical way to do things. Learn first, then bill. And so I was able to see what my clients were doing in their IRAs and then go back and figure out, in hindsight, were you allowed to do that? And so my focus was heavily on the geek side, the rules and such. And then 2 things happened in fairly short order. In 2010, I had a client come to me who was getting audited on his self-directed Roth. And I flat out told him, I'm not the guy to represent you. I don't know enough. And because again, I'll tell you what I don't know. And so what happened was he said, well, nobody knows. I've talked to a bunch of tax lawyers. And in 2010, he said, nobody has a clue. You were honest enough to say you didn't have a clue. And I know you do well in audits, so you do it. So I'm like the old commercial, Mikey, he'll eat anything. Hyre, he'll take it to tax court. What was it? I don't know. It was a thing I never heard of. Let's go. So we did really well in the audit. And I'll admit this now that the statute of limitations has passed. I grossly undercharged. I didn't charge for a lot of the research. I thought it was something I should know at my rate. So I only charged this client, it was like $4,500, both for the audit and to go to tax court. And the result we got, the IRS said he owed 150 grand. We said he owed 0. And the case was dismissed, meaning he owed 0. But I got a lot of insight dealing with the IRS.
Yeah, so if I ever have to go to tax court, I'm calling you and I expect a $4,500 bill at the end.
Yeah, and complete wipeout of the debt. I want the debt's completely wiped out. I'll give you $4,500 and we're good.
No, see, the other thing, my rates, this was 2010, my rates have followed the trajectory of Bitcoin, okay?
That means they've fallen in half by the last 3 months, right?
Congratulations, yeah. And then in 2011, I met Quincy, and here's how I met Quincy. I co-own a real estate investors association in Columbus. Quincy was one of our first speakers. I didn't really know him very well. I knew of him. And I took him to the airport the next day to be uncharacteristically polite and nice to, a guest. And he buys me breakfast and he's telling me all this stuff. And finally, I'm like, stop. Why are you doing this? You're educating the living hell out of me. Why are you doing this? What's the catch? I don't understand. And now I know. I mean, one thing he didn't say. So he admitted to one thing and I've learned another. What I've learned is Quincy revels in it, loves it, rolls in it. It's his absolute highest extension of his geekdom, which is massive indeed. And then he said, don't even go to half of it. And then because one of the fun things is when Quincy and I get a chance to debate minor code sections just to irritate the civilians. But anyway, the other thing he said was, and he was very Quincy, open and honest. He's just, You do things I don't. You litigate and you go to tax court and you deal with the IRS. And there are other ancillary issues that touch IRAs that you know about. And you know those things and I want to know those. And so I'll teach you the things I know. And sure enough, that's how it's worked out. So just nobody tell him I said that. I actually did learn from him, but don't run this by him.
So did I, John, but I never tell him that.
Haley, may I have permission to tell another Quincy story?
Of course. Love it.
So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm at a seminar, and I don't know if John was there or not, because he and I hang out at so many places together. And it was a class being taught by Quincy and Dykes Boddiford. And for the first time that I ever remember, Dykes made a small technical misstatement regarding a Roth IRA and the eligibility for what is a qualified tax-free distribution from an IRA. And Quincy corrected him by quoting the tax code. And it was, no, you have to have a Roth IRA open for 5 or more years, not that IRA. And it was that word A, that one letter that formed a complete word in that sentence that answered this question that had been ricocheting around in my brain for like 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what happened for the next 10 minutes of that seminar, because literally Quincy's answer with the word A was the equivalent of heaven opening up, the angels coming down the stairway, and I saw a path forward for how I wanted to do a deal. And it was one of those moments I still remember. Don't ask me what I had for lunch. Don't ask me the date of the seminar. I just remember Quincy correcting Dykes, and it was a Roth IRA, and everything was happy for me.
Yeah, just like Hunter Biden's laptop, this must never come to light. None of this to be shown to Quincy.
Hopefully that he doesn't watch this.
Oh, yeah. We'll make sure he watches it. Anyways, wow, what a great answer to just the first question that we have tonight. Now, I do want to preface this next question to let you guys know, we have a lot of attendees watching right now. I will let you guys know, if y'all have questions, send them in the chat. I have the chat open in between all of our cameras right now. And, if you call John or Jeff and try to ask your question after tonight, they are probably or definitely going to bill you for it. So if you guys have questions, send them here tonight. I love to get the audience participation and, or call them later and pay for it, whatever you would like to do there.
We don't take American Express. We take MasterCard and Visa. Your credit card information is on file before I talk to you.
I love it.
I learned that from John Hyre.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Well, moving right along. What are you guys seeing in the market right now in terms of investment trends, market updates? What do you think is relevant to investors that you guys are seeing in, your realm of things in today's market? John, I'm going to make you go first for this one. I'm going to pick on you a little bit.
Okay. The first thing is I see every technique succeed and every technique fail, depending on who's behind it. There are things that for example, mobile home parks were a disaster for me. I had horrible judgment with that, but I've seen people make tons and tons of money with it. What am I seeing particularly? Recently, I'm seeing self-storage, particularly in tertiary markets, particularly in easy to work in areas. And I have a number of clients with self-storage and IRAs and 401ks and so forth. So we're seeing where the funeral home industry was 40 years ago, or where taxis versus Uber just 10 years ago. There's consolidation, but in the smaller markets and the more flexible areas, there's opportunity. You can find people who will co-invest. We're seeing the next self-storage, I think, is going to be high-end RV parks. Due to some changes in our society, COVID, mobility, people are moving RVs, setting them down, and they're looking for first-rate amenities. For example, amenities. Oh, anemone, that's ocean creature. But anyway, the wine has begun. So what we're seeing in those parks is where they'll set down a hot tub right next to the RV and, charge $100 a month or whatever it is they charge for it. So some high-end parks. Factoring, I'm involved in some of that with various types of liens. In my case, medical receivables factoring. But we're seeing everything. Meeting people here in Puerto Rico, for example, I have a friend who's really in the tech stocks, and he is we're going to invest in 10, and we know these companies intimately, 9 are going to go bankrupt. One's going to go unicorn. You'll make 4 times your money. So it's out there. Last but not least, leverage. The government's printing money. They're making it artificially cheap. Leverage. If they're going to make the money that cheap, don't be dumb. I mean, there's an amount to leverage. There's a point to stop. But if the government had their version of the purge, but with gold, like for one day, everyone had to sell you gold at $5 an ounce. What would you do? Hunt down everybody with gold and buy it from them at $5 an ounce. Why? Because the government made it artificially cheap. That's what they've done with money. Inflation's going to pay a lot of that off. So that's what we're seeing.
Nice. Jeff?
All right. I'm seeing in my practice, mobile home parks are hot. Rehabs have really slowed down in my practice because the smart lenders are just going like, these numbers don't make sense. We're not going to put money out at risk on this stuff. I'm seeing really creative stuff that I've never seen before. And I'm going to tell you the trend that I'm seeing is, and the smartest thing I can think that anybody can do right now is using a self-directed IRA to buy an option to capture the upside on non-owner occupied investment property. Pete Fortunato spent some time talking about that over the weekend. I just structured a deal this last month where a guy is dropping $300K out of his self-directed IRA to fund the down payment by buying an option on a large commercial portfolio of properties. You can do that on smaller deals and one by onesie twosie houses. That's a great thing. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing mobile home parks are hot. Options are hot. Rehab lending is slowing down because the wise guys are going, rehab costs are out of control. We don't know how long this market's going to stay hot. It's not making sense to us. We're pulling back. And then the last thing I'm seeing, and I hate to be a downer about this, and I know we're going to see a lot more of this. I am averaging about $100,000 a week in bad deals coming across my desk. People asking me to help them figure out how to fix it. How do I make this go right? Just because somebody's got a purported track record doesn't mean you throw your due diligence out the window, folks. Every deal has got to be vetted both by the borrower, the paperwork, the underlying asset, and the projected exit plan. And if you're not doing that, you're just throwing money away. And I got names that are a whole lot better to give you the money to. They are Haley, they're Nathan, they're John, and they're Jeff. Give us your money if you're going to throw it away. We'll be happy to take it, and we'll even say thank you.
I don't think legally I'm allowed to take it, neither is Haley, but you guys can.
Oh, we'll take yours.
I'm it was a rhetorical for theatrical comment, the purpose is because I don't want to see anybody waste their money.
Okay, I agree with you guys, but I'm going to go to a simpler strategy for the same thing. Okay, first of all, cash is trash right now. We're in an inflationary period. 2, there is some money out there that's cheap, right? So what is the play that I think a lot of people are passing on right now that is the play? Okay, there's some things that are affecting the market. Let's first take a look at building cost. Now, maybe I should be specific. I'm here in Texas, so a lot of my information is about Texas, and we're under a lot of pressure. Okay, there is pressure for people who don't want to live in apartments anymore. They want to buy houses. There's need for houses, right? My other brother is a builder. And one of the things that we're finding is building cost is going up at rates that we've never, ever seen before because of all types of pressure, including the fires, the need to build more property. But now we're facing something we've never faced, which is what I call builder speculation. So, for example, I've got 10,000 rolls of wire. I could sell them for 160 a roll this week, or I could hang on to them and sell them for 210 next week. And so builders are actually holding back on supplies, artificially jacking up some of the prices. And you can't even build a custom home in Texas right now because no custom home builder can bid it unless they tell you I will bid the price, what it costs me to do my services, and whatever the expenses it costs to buy my material, you pay for that. You can't actually give a price for a house because price of material is going up so much. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it, John. Cash is cheap, but it's also drying up.
Well, let's talk about that a minute. I followed John Malden, a fellow Texan of yours who's moved to Puerto Rico to get the same benefits I am. And I really, what I like about him is he's intellectually honest. Even if he doesn't like where the facts are going, he follows them. Right. Here's the consensus right now with his people. And what's nice is he has competing voices that disagree, which is a lot of fun. It's like having Quincy here and we all just disagree with them because, well, Quincy. You're going to have the surge in inflation, right? People are coming out of the pandemic. Prices had dropped. A lot of activity was low.
A lot of money.
A lot of labor is scarce, both artificially, but also because some people decided they're done. So, of course, the government paying people to stay home isn't very helpful. Throw in the commodities issue. We'll see how China does with commodities and all. I think we're going to have an upsurge in inflation. There are a lot of deflationary forces in play. The reason, look, I've been thinking, I'm like another guy that lives in Puerto Rico, Peter Schiff. I'm like, what the hell? Why isn't gold so going through the roof? Where's the inflation we were expecting for all these years and years and years? We're going to see some of it, but let's remember something. There are powerful deflationary forces at work in the world. Outsourcing, IT, and artificial intelligence.
That gets back to my strategy. I think that you've got to go to the simplest strategy, John. You buy real estate, you use somebody else's money, all right, and collect as much real estate as you can. And the real estate you want to buy is the stuff you can no longer build. In other words, it costs in Houston $280,000 to build on a lot right now. So everything less than $280,000 is actually a bargain almost no matter where it is. So how do you get a hold of it? And then how do you double all that down? Put it in an IRA that's tax-free, baby. Let's do a Roth IRA. Let's use other people's money to borrow and get it. And guess what? All of a sudden, there is, in some categories, more money than there's ever been. Right? When she opened the speech, she said we had $350 million but since she wrote this speech, we've moved to $400 million. Like private money has more money than it's ever been. Bank money is drying up. I can show you the statistics to show you that.
Nathan, I completely agree. Bank money is drying up, particularly for people who are trying to buy houses. It's drying up. It's been drying up all last 12 months. Because they're getting tighter and tighter on how they approve loans.
Right.
Okay. It's just
that's what they do when bank money dries up. They tighten up so they get the cream of the crop. That's what
Nathan, they're skimming for the cream of the cream right now. Right. Because they only want the A+ borrower buying good quality properties because they're afraid of what's going to happen. I'm going to just tell you, there's so much money that it's leading to people doing stupid. Here's my theory. I put this out last week in a newsletter I write, titled it "Fault Lines." I am seriously concerned about the number of people who don't know enough, but are eagerly piling into the residential multifamily real estate property stuff. I am concerned that there's too many people who don't know what they're doing, that they're getting into deals they don't understand. And I think everybody on this call is going to agree that if you don't understand what you're investing in, you're going to lose your money.
That's why I think sometimes I think people are passing up the simple deal, which is a rental property, which seems like you're paying too much for the property right now, but you can't turn around and build that house for that.
What did I say?
Is the deal. And they're going for these more complicated apartment complex deals, some of the other things. And I don't think that's
Forget the home run. Forget the home runs. Hit the base hits
right now.
Forget the home runs. Just go for base hits.
All right, let me finish on inflation real quick.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, John. I really did.
You are not sorry. You did mean to cut me off, and I thoroughly respect it. That's how we get along. No, I'm serious. Like sharp elbows, right? So I think long-term, we're going to see inflation. The government's incentive is to print, print, print. But there's an issue when that doesn't hit the economy. Right now, we're having velocity of money because of the handout checks, among other things. Banks not making loans drops velocity money. It takes you in the other direction. Long-term, they'll be printing. Long-term, there'll be inflation. But it's going to be uneven, and it's going to be very selective. If you look at what's going up, for example, anything government touches, healthcare, real estate, school, all is going up. Anything they don't touch, LASIK, the part of medical they don't touch is dropping. Technology, why did we do so well in tech? So just some thoughts. I don't disagree with you on the rentals. I think ultimately prices are going to go up and have to go up. Here's the catch. What's a reasonable debt coverage ratio? Because it's harder to find good deals. It's easy to borrow, but it's hard to find a deal that's good on today's numbers. And if things drop for a little bit for any reason, didn't we just have a recent thing that happened that caused?
I'm sorry, I'll go back to super simple. If it cash flows and you can pay the mortgage and hang on to it, it's probably worth doing.
Yeah, but once again, because I'm my lawyer, I say, yeah, but that's what I do. There's got to be a coverage ratio there's only a certain amount of risk you're willing to take, and finding those deals is hard unless you're not on the hook. Now, if you want to get into some of the owner finance stuff where you can get out.
Cash flow it. That means you can hang on to it long enough.
Cash flow alone is not enough, Nathan. Cash flow alone is not enough.
Out any of the problems that you just described. It still comes back to the basic thing. Can I borrow the money for less money than I can rent and handle average repairs?
Yeah, that's simple until you take into account things like, oh, didn't we just have an event? I forget the name of it. It has to do with some virus that screwed up cash flow. Right?
Not all borrowers, not all real estate owners are equal in the property management space. Management matters, Lathan. Management matters. Two people can borrow identical sums of money, buy identical side-by-side houses. One will succeed and one will fail solely on management.
I would be the one that would fail.
That's mean you got to hire it out.
I have never figured this out. Yeah, that's exactly right. I have to hire it out because my mother is the greatest rental property owner I've ever met. She never gets a late check from her renters. They don't only bring her check, John, they bring her a piece of pie with it. I can't quite ever figure it out. I've never been able to be that person.
Yeah, you're a chip off of Dad's old block. Sorry.
Yeah. I think Haley feels like she's losing control of this, and she's going to exert her super moderator powers electronically here.
You know what, Jeff? I'm glad you picked up on that because I figured I'd share my screen. We have gotten through 2 whole questions so far, but it is now time for the second wine. I'm not even going to go to the third question until we get at least the second wine tasting through. But guys, our second wine is Flowers Pinot Noir 2017 Sonoma Coast. Flowers Winery is based on the Sonoma Coast of California. It's been there since the 1980s. And this is actually 1,100 feet above sea level. It was uncharted territory for farming grapes. And it was actually initially, oh gosh, where is this in my notes? It was initially a meeting ground between some of the Indian tribes and Russian fur traders. And then back in the 80s, a couple came and found it, decided they wanted to start making wine there. And it's been a winery there ever since. So enjoy your flowers.
Trade the fur for weapons.
Yes.
By the way.
I guess I had that in my notes and I figured it probably wasn't as relevant, but it's the most interesting fact I found about this winery in particular. So guys, enjoy your second glass of wine. We do actually have some questions from our attendees, and one of them was really good. So give me 1 second here. Got a lot of windows moving around here.
So wait, Russians trading, we'll trade AK-47 for wine.
That's it. But they were long rifles back then because they didn't have AK-47s.
They were trading for the furs to make the hats and the coats to get through the cold Moscow winters. That's what they were doing.
That is actually a true story.
Always had Kalishnikov. Don't believe a word.
Oh, stop. Sorry, Haley.
All right, guys, you're good. Anyways, Anyways, we do have a question from one of our attendees that I really liked here. Let's see. What are the most aggressive strategies you have seen investors utilize pre or post COVID to transform sub 10K self-directed IRAs into large accounts over $100,000 in a very short period of time?
I'm not the short period of time guy, so I'm going to let you guys take that over.
And are there any issues with this? Let's kind of cover that too.
I'm going to get rid of the short period of time. I'm going to tell you that the best strategy I've seen to take small dollar IRAs, sub 10K, and grow them is wrap co-lending. Wrap co-lending, where you're putting a large portion of the account to work on a bigger deal and you're collecting a spread on the bigger chunk that you're wrapping. That is it, because you're and John and I have debated this back and forth. He sees one way, I see it another way, and I look at how much risk that small account is taking in order to justify what it's earning, and just look at it from that perspective. So that's the thing I see.
I have always been a fan of a model that once you figure out what you're good at, you apply the model. And it won't be quick either. So everyone's like, well, no, I talked to someone at RIA and he made his $100 IRA into $50,000 in about 20 minutes. I'm not here to discuss that. I don't see very many legitimate ways to do that. So, for example, assignments and the options that mimic them inside of an IRA, I just think you're disguising a personal service inside your IRA. It's a shame Quincy's not here, because he would be having, his head spinning, and it's all cute when he does that. What do I like? I like an approach. Borrow, eat the UBIT. So there's a tax on borrowing in an IRA, and people get all hung up over that. Just bloody borrow to get 20% of the, let's call it critical mass. Let's say critical mass for you is my IRA needs $200,000 to do a deal by itself with no help. Okay, that's your critical mass. 20% of that's 40 grand. Borrow until the IRA has 40 grand. Then set up a partnership, or more to the point, an LLC that has preferred members. So let's say Watson. Now, he would never really do this, but we'll use him as an example because, there he is. So my IRA puts in 40 grand. Watson is a civilian who's willing to take a 7% return. He puts in the other what? Honey, I know, right? Right?
Seven? Did you say 37 or did you say 7?
Oh, the dot was before the 7. No, that's a thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
So Watson brings some civilian who's really happy with 7%, which there are a lot of them out there. And you're going to talk to a securities lawyer and all. There are details involved and batteries not included, right? But you get a civilian, in this case Watson, to come in with 140 grand of equity money that he's willing to take a 7% return on. He's a preferred dividend class. So what happens? We do our deal with 200, 140 of his, 60 of the IRA, or 40, or whatever number. I'm drinking, right? I think it was 40, whatever. Between friends, little dots. We do the deal, whatever it is, or we do multiple deals. Maybe it takes a few years. We cash Jeff out. My IRA doesn't get a nickel. It's a common shareholder. Jeff is preferred. Jeff gets his 7% return on his capital. He gets a full return of his capital, the 160. Then the IRA gets everything else. What did you just accomplish? You got leverage, but instead of debt leverage, it's cheap equity leverage, and you don't pay UBIT. Let me repeat that. You start with debt leverage, pay UBIT until you're at 20% of critical mass. Why 20%? The IRA's got to put something in the deal. My IRA did the deal. No, your IRA is a piece of paper. It didn't do squat. The human did the deal. That's presumably you. I can't see you, but I think, right? Probably. No Martians on the call. So the IRA doesn't do the deal. It has to invest some. Now you help it do the deal. So it has to have skin in the game. I'm saying 20%, but it's a form of leverage, because what did we do? We paid Watson 7%. Watson, shake again.
I can't. John, I keep hearing 37%.
No, but
I keep hearing 37.
To be fair, let's take a look at my clients. And even me, okay? I'm a guy that I can't go beat the bushes and go find a deal. I'm a lender. right? I'm running Quest. I spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in a week as a manager of Quest. So I mean, it's a reality. I work for Quincy. Hello, you know. I guess I should say I work for you, Jeff, because you're on my board of directors. But again, you keep joking, but an 8% or 9% return to me tells me a couple of things. I could at least maybe outpace inflation. I'm looking at most of my clients increasingly getting payoffs, increasingly getting more and more money in self-directed IRAs. In the last few months, so the amount of cash that my clients have gotten in their accounts has been epic, greater than any time in history of us doing this, Jeff. So I'm like,
and it's payoffs,
don't make too much fun, because some of those people absolutely, and me included, need those deals that have the 8% backing. There's guys like me that are out there.
And I'm not making fun of those folks at all, because I work with them every day in my own deals, that I work with them in co-lending arrangements, and I represent them in other transactions. But when John was trying to say that I make 7, no, John, I try to, my goal is 37%.
Not me personally.
That's my target. That's my target audience on my money.
It's fitting, though. It's fitting. It's all about fitting. As I get older and have less time and more money, I'm also willing to take lower returns. My time's more valuable. My money's less valuable. So it depends on your position. It's not good or bad. I just joke because I know that the rapacious sorts that we have on this call that are presenting, maybe some of the attendees as well, would never, ever deign to take such a rate. But you know what? We got one who will. Why? Less time, more money. So how do you build your IRA? Leverage with debt, then equity, and on the equity, don't pay UBIT. And then what kind of deal can you do? Well, I don't know. What are you good at?
That's a good point. What are you good at? My mom was really good at rental properties, and that's one of the reasons why she did so good at it, because she kind of would have a relationship that I don't have the time to have with my renters. So I like to lend, that's what I do personally, and it's worked out really well for me and my family over a long period of time.
All right, guys, I'm going to take that 2-second pause as my cue that we're going to go to the next question. So cheers. You guys really are doing a great job. We have a question from one of our attendees. May not be as long of an answer, but I do think that this one's interesting. Jeff, you said you have a lot of bad deals that are coming across your desk. One of our attendees specifically asked, is there a way to access the bad deals that come across your desk? I'm interested in buying bad deals, title issues, etc. What advice or insight would you have here?
They ain't for sale. I fix them. They're not for sale. I fix them.
But I do have
I mean, I don't want this to come across the wrong way. I appreciate the question. I really do. If they were absolutely worthless deals, I couldn't in good conscience sell them to somebody else. Okay. Mm-hmm. And believe me, I've seen them out there getting sold that way, and it makes me shudder. But if it's a borderline deal, and I don't mean to be boastful, I fix them. I put a Band-Aid on it. I re-weld something to it, whatever you got to do. And I get it to where it can limp across the finish line, and my client is probably going to get their principal back, maybe a little bit of a return on their money, but they're going to at least get their principal back. And boy, did they get a lesson. Boy, they learned a lesson, and they won't make that mistake again. But it's a great question, and I'm going to tell you,
some of the best things I've learned have been from my bad investments.
Oh, yeah, but I'm going to tell you, Nathan, I'm going to tell you this, and John, I'm going to tell you this, and everybody else listening. In the next 12 months, we're going to see a plethora of bad self-directed IRA deals bubble to the surface like we've never seen before. People who didn't do their due diligence, people who didn't watch all the videos on YouTube that Quest puts up there, people who didn't go to all the lunch and learns, people who didn't take advantage of all the free training. They're the ones I'm scared for, particularly people at other custodians.
On that positive freaking note.
Well, I'm just scared because Nathan, Quest does an amazing job teaching people. And I see people with accounts at other companies that I shall not name, and I just shudder at the stuff I see them doing. And then they come to me and go, how do we fix it?
It's out there, but it's been out there for a long time, I would argue.
Yeah, right. IRA money is magic money. You don't have to treat it the way you do your normal money. In fact, it's much less valuable than your normal money since you can't touch it till you're 59 and a half. You can just put it into whatever. And it's just a sad mentality. It's just a sad mentality because you've seen it, Jeff. You've seen when people treat their IRA money in, ironically, an inferior way to the way they treat their real money, which is just mind-blowing.
You're right. I see people that treat their IRA money like they're a high roller at Vegas. And in 10 hours, they can lose 4 decades of retirement savings.
I've done
They fall for the charm. They don't do their due diligence. They meet some charismatic person who's very good at being charismatic and possibly a sociopath and get ripped off completely, especially with loans.
They get lured between the...
I've done that in my life, and I didn't meet anybody weird. I didn't meet somebody that did it. I was working, as a manager at AIG for many years, making good money as an upper manager. I had these stock accounts, and I woke up one morning, and they were worth 40% of what they were when I went to bed. That was a reality in my life, and I bet you a lot of people that are listening had a similar reality.
Or Quincy, they could have been at Enron and had it wake up and they were worth, less than 10%.
Or you could go on Robinhood and be negative 1 million.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to hear me scream this from the top of the roofs. Always do your due diligence. Always do your due diligence. Always do your due diligence, and refuse to be lured into a contractual relationship by the promise of a high interest rate. It is just, what makes you think you're so special to be promised 15, 18, 24% on your money on a loan?
Well, you were just asking for 37. I'm just going to point that out.
No, I'm not asking for it. I arrange to earn it. There's a difference. I work to earn it. I do the old way. I earn my money. I put time and effort and talent and technique together, and bang. Time, talent, and technique, I put it together, and that's how I get 37%. Anyhow.
For that same caller, honestly, I've never done that. Quincy is a master of taking small amounts of money and getting super high returns, right? But if you backed up and asked him how he got his wealth, it had nothing to do with any of those deals. It had to do with learning from doing those deals, like getting an education and then applying that in different ways. Most of the time, deals that have very high return have a very high time cost to them. Life, money, success is about learning how to balance those things. And it's one of the reasons why I'm very good at what I do, is because I'm a business manager and I've learned balance a long time ago. And I think that often investors are often chasing the shiny penny, chasing this, chasing that, when the real trick is learning something that you do and then doing it well and repeating it over. We lost Jeff. Not that that was a big loss, but
he's still here. He's just hiding.
Damn
but
it.
We actually just had a really great question from one of our attendees. So I want to go ahead and ask this one. One of our attendees wants to know, I'm an investor and I have someone that has a 401k that wants to lend me his 401k to purchase properties. What is the best way to handle his money? Great question.
Well, I need more clarification, right? The lawyer always asks for more questions. The context, the simplest thing to do, make sure it's not a disqualified person, and those rules are a lot more, the prohibited transaction rules are a lot more subtle than they appear. Most people are like, yeah, it's not family, we're good. No. There's much more to it. So make sure it's not a disqualified person. Make sure not to convert them into a disqualified person. A. B. I don't know enough about you, so I don't know what you're good at. And I would make sure you do that because you're dealing with someone's retirement money. There may be securities law issues involved. You want to talk to one of those lawyers so that you don't become a felon by accident. I mean, if you're going to do that, do it on purpose, by all means. You know, scare them off in the mirror. Huh?
You're going to scare them off.
Well, there are things that have to be done. But you guys, how do you mean I'm going to scare them off? You guys put out how many freaking, I don't even know the word for how many flopabytes or whatever the hell the word is for the education you put out, teaching people to look at these very things.
Right.
But if you want to deal ethically with someone else's IRA or 401k, you have to have a sense of the rules or access to someone who does. Because as you were saying, we're all good at some things. For example, the engineers tend to be pretty good at book smart stuff and looking at a process and overanalyzing the living hell out of it, but then also following it once they've got it. Where you got some guys who are really good at putting together deals and they're no good at paperwork. They need to hire someone to do the part they're no good at. What you were saying, you have someone who is good at something. You, in your case, in your job, being a Quest slave. You're very good at Quest slave. And so, but what you're not good at, for example, because you're too busy being a Quest slave, is investing. And so you pay other people to do that. And that's why you're willing to take a lower return. So what I'm saying here is, you've got someone, I don't know much about them. He just wants to know if it would be wise to convert the 401k to an IRA. Again, with a lawyer, because they just updated the question, it depends, right? Can he self-direct a 401k?
Oh, okay. Let me back up some, John, and make it simple.
Oh, here we go.
99% of the time, yes. They're going to take their 401k and move it to an IRA. Did he just leave? I'm very upset with you, John.
I'm here.
Oh, it was Haley that left. Okay. So they're going to have to do that. That's 90% of the time. That's the process that takes place. If it's still in a 401k, they may still be working. They may not have access to it to lend you the money.
Oh, Nathan, we're going to help you with this.
Here's what I would tell you. You have a lender. You have a lender. It's unlike having a real estate deal. You'll find real estate deal after another one, and when you find one, you better find another one. When you have a lender, you better learn to take care of them because they will lend for you for this deal and for the next deal and the deal after. And how you take care of them is you learn how to protect their interest. You hire an attorney in the state that don't use a title company attorney. You have someone draft up the note, deed of trust, or note mortgage, depending on what state you're in, that is familiar. You introduce them to them. Even if it costs more, you protect their interest and let them know you're protecting their interest. You make sure you're getting a title insurance policy. You make sure that you're listing as an insured. And you can learn all of that stuff through some Quest video, plug for Quest education there. But my point being is you take care of them. Go, Jeff.
I agree with borrowers taking care of their lenders, but I will have to politely disagree. Lenders need to pick the lawyers that draft their loan documents.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay, that's my small little distinction there. And John, we skipped over something. I want to go back to.
But I mean, if you're a lender and you're not familiar with it, all right,
you will get familiar. Know what you got to do. Pay attention to the Quest videos on. You need to know
how many Jeff Watson, John Hyres, Christina Fohasses are there out there. There's not that many.
But there's so many videos by Quest about you need a note, you need a mortgage, you need a deed of trust, you need to close at a title company, you need to close with a real estate attorney, you get a title policy, you get a lender's policy, you send closing instructions, you never send money straight to the borrower. I mean, it's all over Quest education sites.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So, John, we skipped over something, and I want to go back to it. You alluded that you have some information that Nathan might really enjoy learning. What was that you very gently teased and just kind of like slid past most of us?
So I don't know the context of the 401k. I'm assuming it's not self-directed, hence the question. If it's self-directed, the question answers itself. They talked about how to properly be a good borrower. If it's not a self-directed 401k, and the person, it's their work, their W-2 401k, and they're like, well, I can't lend out of that 401k. Well, that's true. However, particularly in a community property state like Texas, if that person has a spouse and they get along, that's really important, and they get along and are going to continue to get along, you can get what's called a qualified domestic relations order and have a marital reorganization, where you can force money out of a company 401k that is non-self-directed into a spouse's IRA or a spouse's 401k that is self-directed. Because normally when we think of quadros, qualified domestic relations orders, we think divorce, separation, but there's a third way. There's a third way. It's a marital reorganization. 35 out of 50 states, particularly community property states, permit it. So that might be if somebody, someone who has money at their job and they want to self-direct it, this is a legitimate backdoor that's not really very well known. Observe the look upon the face of Nathan. Observe.
Yeah, I'm actually, yeah.
There might be an opportunity next month, Nathan, that you're going to be at where this is going to be discussed in greater detail.
Oh, that's what we're talking about, Puerto Rico?
We're talking about Puerto Rico. We're talking about that is going to be some of the things talked about in Puerto Rico with the John Hyre.
Honestly, you caught me, John.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a fun time. I mean, folks, pay attention to this stuff. Quest is proud to sponsor this. John's leading an event. I get to speak a little bit at it called Rum and Taxes 2001. Check it out. That's the website, Rum and Taxes 2001. There's going to be 2 days and nothing but self-directed IRA nerding.
Ellie, did you get that?
Rum and Taxes 2021?
2021.
Yeah.
Rum and Taxes 2021. Did I say something wrong?
You said 2001.
Oh, time warp.
Space Odyssey, Jeff. It was a Space Odyssey.
Time warp. Time warp.
It's a different Odyssey.
Yep. Sorry. Time warp. 2021. Yes.
You know it's going to be a good event when, one, it's in Puerto Rico, two, it's called Rum and Taxes. So
we got the hotel on the beach at half price.
I told my wife I was going, and she's like, not alone.
Hey, I can't complain. I'll be in Miami that weekend, so it's not Puerto Rico, but
we still have. I got an email that says 7 rooms left in the block. They are at less than half the price that the hotel is advertising the rooms at. It's the Condado. What is it? It's the brain, because there are 2 Hiltons.
Hilton Caribe.
The Hilton Caribe, which argues with another hotel over which hotel invented the pina colada. I think we settle the argument.
I think we do too.
And by the way, we bring it up because that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about, and it's going to be a lot of Q&A, but that's the kind of strategies we're going to talk about. So Nathan's just salivating at, wait a minute, there's all this untapped 401k money that we didn't realize we could tap. And to quote Nathan,
like I haven't stopped it.
I want to tap that.
Question for you guys, since this is a strategy that most people probably have not heard of. Say you do this marital agreement, move the 401k. What happens if things go south? What happens if the couple gets divorced?
Okay, so I have 2 rules for that. A, there's the rule I live with. I married a Latina. There's one way out of the marriage. If anything goes south, money will be the least of my worries. For everybody else, that's why I said there's a risk. There's always a trade-off, always. Here the trade-off is you bloody well better get along for a long, 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 long time.
And let me be blunt. I'm going to spend some time at this event, Haley, talking about divorce and asset protection because I know a little bit about it from firsthand experience, and I know a lot about it from some other clients that have gone through it. I'm going to flat out tell you, if you and your spouse are not communicating on a consistent basis and on the same page about money, y'all need to get some help. And it's not going to be found in Puerto Rico. It's going to be found at a marriage counselor's office. But you got to get on the same page with money and finances if you want your marriage to succeed. There. I preached tonight and I'm done.
You're just getting warmed up.
Oh, well, I mean, on that topic, John, I don't want to go long on the other stuff.
Awesome, guys. Well, due to time, we're going to go ahead and move on to the third wine. Give me one moment. Let me share my screen here. I think I have officially made it through 3 of my questions that I had prepared for tonight. But the third wine of the night, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the wines that we brought tonight, but we have actually gone in order from the most affordable wine to the most expensive wine. So I do have to say, you guys have seen me been drinking mine. I guess mine got lost in the mail, so I had to get my own bottle of wine here. We'll talk about that next time we host this event. But our third wine of the night is our Red Schooner Red Blend. This wine is also has an interesting story to it. It is actually grown by Malbec grapes that are grown in the Andes Mountains in Argentina, and they're actually transported to California and then turned into wine. So where most wines are kind of labeled by their year, by their age, this one is actually labeled by voyages. So this Red Schooner Red Blend is the 9th voyage from the Andes Mountains in Argentina into California for production. So I thought that was really interesting. It is our most expensive fancy wine of the night. So guys, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you didn't fill up too much on the
additional information, just because I know a little bit about my wines, is Red Schooner is owned by Camus. So the whole project is a Camus project. Mm-hmm. So yes, they're probably buying some pretty good grapes there.
And Nathan, while you're providing us some wine knowledge, can you tell us the proper way to hold a wine glass and why you hold it like that?
Oh, you never touch the bowl. You only touch the stem because the heat from your fingers can actually change the consistency of the wine.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I actually learned this from you at one of my very first dinners after one of my first Quest events. So every time I hold a wine glass properly, I actually think of that lesson. So just a fun fact for you guys there. But last wine of the night is our Red Schooner Red Blend. And let me stop sharing my screen and we'll get right back to the questions. Guys from the audience, keep the questions coming if you have them, because I've only made it through a few of mine tonight. You guys have had great questions, but I have an interesting one here. And this can relate to either you or maybe some of your clients that you've worked with for John and Jeff. What is the hardest thing that you have learned or had to learn when self-directing your IRA? Nathan, you look like you're ready to answer this one. Maybe take a sip of wine first, because it looks a little pink.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's if you don't know it, if you don't understand it, don't invest in it. Every time I've gotten in trouble, it's because I'm outside of my territory. You know, I'm doing something that I didn't understand, you know, and make your own set of rules and follow them, and only break them when you understand you're breaking them and you understand the consequences of possibly breaking them. But I think some of my worst deals, I've honestly never lost money in any of my investments, but they've taken a lot longer and a lot more trouble than I ever thought they would, especially my investments in East Coast states where I had to foreclose that took years, you know, because I wasn't familiar with their process and so forth and so on. But so what would you say, Jeff?
I think the biggest lesson that I had to learn personally, I'm not talking about my clients, I'm talking about me personally, is that it was my responsibility to track the performance of every investment every month. If I wasn't tracking that every month, then I wasn't doing the best job managing those investments. If I wasn't tracking every payment coming in, comparing it to the amortization schedule, then when I first started doing this, I didn't know a thimbleful compared to what I know now. And I made a lot of stupid mistakes, and I've learned a lot. And track your investments every month. The man, the legend, the godfather of the industry, Mr. Lyle Wall, who only began self-directing in 1978, so he's just now figuring out how to do it because he only started in 1978, has tracked every deal he's ever done on a meticulous spreadsheet, and he can spend hours walking you through that spreadsheet, showing you what he did, how he did it, and how it grew. And that's how $28,000 became 7 figures with a crooked number at the end and several commas in there.
I'm going to take it from a more technical standpoint. I think you guys are talking generically because I think, and it's good, it's not a critique, it's you're talking about how to invest, because what you just said also applies to investing, not just necessarily through an IRA. So being a tax geek and technical guy, I'm going to address the question from that standpoint. The prohibited transaction rules and the associated, the regulations, the plan asset regs, they're just, even by tax lawyer standards, I would almost rather read any other thing in the code. They're so, it took a while to really distill them. And a lot of that happened by arguing with Quincy and also sometimes taking absurd, ridiculous positions just to annoy Quincy.
Absurdly familiar with those codes.
I'm sorry?
He's absurdly familiar.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And so that, having someone, here's the key, and I think something Quincy's good at, someone who has taken the time over and over and over and absorbed it, and who can distill it into fairly human terms that are understandable and perhaps even periodically humorous. That's rare.
Very rare. You know, he used to read the dictionary when we grew up together, John. Not the little one. He would get the College Webster dictionary, and every summer he would read it. And I'm not joking. He would read the whole thing. But that's not the worst part, because at the end of the summer, he'd write Webster to explain where their mistakes were.
I know someone else who did that. Yeah. They're a rare breed of individual.
He was an odd brother to grow up with, though I got to tell you, I couldn't have asked for anything more.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, guys. So we're going to do a few more questions here. We'll try to end it on a positive note tonight. I know a lot of this has been, what are the worst things you've done? What are the worst things you've seen? But, on the flip side of that, what are you guys seeing people do correctly to protect themselves, not just today, but to make sure that their investments are protected 5 to 10 years from now? I love when you do that, Jeff. That means we're about to get a great answer.
I'm struggling because I think the thing that I'm seeing clients do that I really stand in awe of is they're really good at the basics. They're consistently putting money every month, contribution-wise, into their accounts. They are continuing to put more bullets into the gun. They are sticking with what they're good at. We've talked about this earlier. John said it, and I'm going to reemphasize it. They stick with what they're good at. If they're good at lending, they lend. If they're good at estimating rehabs, they make sure they're doing that, whatever it is. And then the last thing is they stay in their lane. They don't get shiny object silver bullet disease. That is the death knell that I see most investors get sucked under. And I mean, this is where I finally got better. When I finally got rid of the squirrel rabbit mentality and I said, I'm going to be the ugly green reptile, because according to that story, the turtle wins the race. And I leave it at that.
Yeah, that reminds me of a book I read. It did change my life. The One Thing. Because I definitely have the entrepreneurial ADD thing going. And once I decided to back off and not try and do everything and focused on being good at a few things, that really, I have to emphasize that. What's worked for me personally, again, I've had to learn my limitations. We did really well in our accounts with rental properties that we bought 100% leveraged by other people's IRAs, 2009 to 2017. We're not buying rentals in there anymore. I don't like where rental prices are at. I've seen other things I prefer for the non, unless I can find a nice deal. But the stuff we bought from 09 to 17, we've done quite well at. I stuck with the one model. I paid to learn it. Here's the deal. You always pay. You can screw it up. That's usually expensive tuition. You can learn from others, which means you actually have to listen. That's a hard part for talkative lawyer types. But if you're going to learn, I would learn outside of your IRA and do what you know inside the IRA. The IRA is not the place for experimentation. And so I had done a lot of we're getting to the point where I'm drinking enough, I might even discuss it, but I've done remarkably stupid things with low-income housing. Thankfully, none of it was in my exempt accounts. because those are where the cherries go.
Yep. No guinea pigs allowed in the IRA. No guinea pigs allowed in the IRA. No experimental test rockets. I want tested, proven, true,
I would
boring
say
things.
you can take that outside the IRA. I think that most people that fail at their businesses don't realize the importance of the basics, don't realize the importance of going back over the basics time and time and time again. Do we do that at Quest? Basics, basics, basics. We always try to focus on the basics and try to understand every problem from the most simplest point. When you try to make things more complicated, it feels good, it looks good, it's a good story, but good investors are the ones that learn how to do something and repeat it. I had a question there about how for a beginner, I've only got $6,000 or $7,000. What do I do? You learn to use other people's money. There's a lot of money out there, a lot of money in self-directed IRAs. You can learn to use it, right? And leverage whatever thing that you're good at by using other people's money. And there are people that are more than willing to help you to do that.
Let me translate that. Borrow, eat the UBIT, grow it. Don't get hung up on you're going to pay some tax, because getting that IRA to critical mass is worth the price you pay to get there. Don't try, what's Voltaire's old thing? The perfect is the enemy of the good. No, I can't pay any taxes. Well, if I pay a little bit, but it gets me in a position where I can avoid a whole bunch thereafter, I'll take the good over the perfect.
Well, and somebody that looks at me and says, Jeff, I only have $6,000 or $7,000 in my IRA. What can I do? Know more, learn more, be better at something than someone who's got 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in their IRA, because it's your knowledge as an investor that will allow you to access their money in conjunction with your money, whether you're borrowing and paying UBIT on it, whether you're co-lending and wrapping, whatever it is, but you've got to enhance your knowledge. You've got to know more than the other people. That way they'll put their money to work with you.
Man, people will tell you, people want to share their stories. Like Lyle Wall, guy's a genius in terms of what he's done, and he's been around the block about 15 times. And if you just listen, most of those guys want to share with you. Most of them aren't going to ask, like a guy like Lyle, last thing he's going to do is ask you for money. He's doing okay in that department. He just wants to share. And if you listen to what they're telling you, and then you have to know you have to know what they're telling you that can work for you. So you got to listen to what they say and know you. And at that point, you decide what to do with it. But if you got 7 in there, I'd ask you what's working outside of it, and can it be duplicated within?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Find the people like the Lyle Walls, the Pete Fortunatos, the Dyke Spotiffords, the Quincy Longs, and learn from them, and
Hyre.
Shut up and listen to them. Just listen. I mean, I treasure the time that I get to spend one-on-one with Lyle Wall. That is just sit down with him at dinner or breakfast or lunch, and I just shut up and listen, because that man has been there, done that, like John said, around the block 15 times. And you're going to learn so much from him.
You don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to be educated. You don't have to know a lot about real estate to be able to do this. And I'm a good example. I didn't know anything about a lot of those things. I came from a completely different industry. But I was able to take the things that I learned and apply it. And I think that's important for everyone to understand. It's like, you are you. And you don't have to be anyone else to be successful at investing. You probably already have the knowledge. You just need to learn how to apply it, which maybe you've never been shown.
And I think that And I think that leads really nicely into my next question, which I think is actually going to be probably my last question of the night before we really kind of start to wrap this up. It's crazy how fast an hour and a half goes by with you guys. I don't know about all of our attendees out there, but Jeff, you made a comment earlier that I would like to expand on a little bit about hitting base hits versus striking out, trying to hit home runs. How would you describe hitting a base hit when you're investing? How do you know that this is a base hit and not something that's really not actually worth your time versus really shooting for those home runs that might be more risk than it might really be worth? What would your advice be there of how to hit those base hits solidly and how to consistently do that and know that you're still on the right path?
Okay. Let me see if I can get my throat to clear up here. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to steal something that John talked about that is so consistent with this. What worked for you outside of a self-directed IRA? Are you good at buy, fix, and resell? Great. You know how to do that? Then go ahead and do it what's inside your IRA because you know how to do it. It's a base hit. You don't have to get fancy. You don't have to get super technical. You do the stuff that you know works because you know you've got the skill set to do it. That's hitting base hits. For me, Haley, I went from making marginal loans to making good loans, and then I made a great loan that went bad. And then I got back to my base hits. My base hits where I simply consistently lend a small chunk of money, 10 grand or so, and I get a double-digit rate of return on it, and I get my money back in less than a year or about a year, and I get to put it back to work over and over and over again. That's what I know. That's what I'm good at. Those are my base hits. And I'm gonna use this analogy. One of the favorite baseball teams I ever watched was the St. Louis Cardinals with Willie McGee, Ozzie Smith, and Vince Coleman. And they had some other great ball players whose name I can't remember right now. And they played a version of baseball called rat ball. Everybody had blazing speed and they just hit base hits. And the next thing you know, they had the bases loaded with one out. And that pitcher's trying to figure out how to get out of the inning without giving up more runs. It's because they just hit base hit after base hit after base hit. That's what I look at. And it's you focus on what you're good at. You focus at who are the other trusted people in your circle of influence and friends, and what are their strengths that you can use your IRA with? I'll leave it at that.
So Jeff borrowed from me, I'll borrow from Nathan. Simplicity. First of all, you have to define the bases. You define the game. Which game are you playing? You have a choice, a lot of different games. Pick one or two, maybe three, but be very good at them outside of the IRA. What's a base hit? One that you know has a high probability of success. The more moving parts, the more complicated, the more potential there is for sand in the Vaseline, the parts get gummed up. That's not the deal. Now, some of you are so good at those deals, those complex deals, that later in life, they become base hits for you. But let them first become base hits before you do them in your IRAs. So you have to define the game. You have to define what's a base. Simple. Go with what's simple and you know works over and over that has a high probability of success. There's no shame in waiting for a better deal. I think Buffett said, investing is like a game of baseball where you never have to swing. You wait for the sweet ball to float over the plate. You don't have to foul or strike.
I mean, 4 balls is a base hit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I see more people losing the retirement account chasing a dream. If it smells too good, if it looks too good, if you don't understand it and they need their money really fast, you probably shouldn't do the deal. That being said, if I had $1 for every email, every phone call I would get during the course of a day that told me, Nathan, thank you, for I learned how to take what I already knew and build wealth on it inside of my retirement account. And my life is forever different for it. I hear that all day long. So self-directed IRAs, people should understand they're dangerous. Any powerful tool is dangerous, right? But for the right people, a powerful tool can build beautiful things. And I think that sometimes my clients are the most amazing people ever met. And the best part of my job is getting to see them do some of the things they do. It's the greatest thing. It's like getting to see inside of people's heads sometimes. So sometimes I guess that's what you guys get to do, but you guys get to do it as lawyers after they screwed it all up. And then you have to try to fix it.
I'd rather help them do it right to begin with.
Yeah, but most don't. I mean, to be fair, by the time they're contacting you,
I gotta tell you that more and more of my clients are coming to me to do the deal, not fix the deal. So I'm really happy about that.
Haley, thank you. This is a great event. Any more questions?
One more question, last one, and I promise, and this is my question that I always love to end our classes with. If you had one last piece of advice or insight for our audience, maybe to relate with some of the topics that we talked about today, what is one last piece of advice that you would offer for our attendees out there? And what was your favorite wine of the night? Because I think that's important that we ask that as well. So John, going to pick on you again, going to make you go first. One last piece of advice, and what was your favorite wine of the night?
I liked the Merlot, sweet. And so, well, you are what you drink, I guess. Okay, the wife is coming in and wait, stop.
Sweet? No way.
Okay,
Have your wife bring you a bottle of vinegar.
Oh, vinegar is very good.
What are you doing? What are you people doing? My piece of advice for that, it's interesting, the direction of the conversation, neither good nor bad, it is. I think that's actually good. Was what are you going to invest in was really the focus. Had less to do with technicalities and rules and tax strategies. I mean, the strategy is to a degree built in. It's, as Nathan said, the tool magnifies the user. Wield the tool well. And it means you have to know both the rules, but also what you're going to do with it. And we focused on what you're going to do with it, the investment. It just goes back to what we've been repeating. Do the basics, do them well, practice it outside your IRA first, define what's, a first base or second base hit. Stick to that. People do it over and over. Be patient. Like, unless you're,
I'm going to echo that. I got to echo that. It's like, don't chase the shiny penny. Don't chase it. Like, instead, find your place and do it. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to do it. Like owning a rental property, doing a hard money loan, doing these things can be very simple. And a lot of us just like get caught up like it's too complicated. I can't be the investor. I don't have this much money. I don't have this much sophistication. The people that you see up here on stage talking to you did their first deals with not that much money, without that much sophistication, and without that much knowledge, no matter how smart these two young men appear to be to you on stage.
Jeff?
You want me to follow that, Haley?
I do. That's exactly what I want you to do.
That is rough. I mean, those two guys just like knocked it out of the park. And here I am trying to even make sure I'm somewhere relevant. I'm going to give you two last thoughts. Fire is fire, whether you're a caveman or a glass blower. Use it to blow glass rather than just burn wood like a caveman would. And the self-directed IRA is the fire. The second thing I'm going to tell you is this. Consistently commit to contributing to your self-directed IRA every month. Make it part of your financial plan. Make it part of your spending habits, pattern, whatever it is. set it up to where it is auto deducted, set it up to where it happens every month. Money goes into your self-directed IRA account, your self-directed 401k, whatever it is. Get that money on autopilot, get it in there. Keep putting more wood on the fire so that you can blow better and better glass. I'll leave it at that.
Such a great metaphor, and what a great way to end our class, guys, tonight. That's about all that I have. Actually, believe it or not, I only made it through about 4 of my 10 questions, but I would say it was a very successful event. I hope you all learned something, and experts, we will definitely be inviting you back, hopefully in person next time. And to all of our attendees out there, if you have questions for an IRA specialist, reach out to us. We're always happy to help. If you get audited by the IRS, call John. If you need to structure a loan, call Jeff. You can, I don't know, call Nathan and he'll send it off to me. But if you guys have questions, let us know. We're always happy to help.
Staff, guys.
Yeah, right. Just call me instead.
All
I
right.
hope you all have a great night, and we'll see you at our next event, and we'll see you at
Last
the
thing to
summer
think.
intensive.
Quincy's, my brother, definitely affected all of our lives.
Yep.
He affected a lot of you that are listening's life. I'm very sorry that he couldn't be here. But I'm just saying, I'm glad he's been around in this world because he did a lot of good things. Thank you.
They're still doing it through all of us. He is here tonight.
Yep, he is. He's making a huge impact. All right. Peace, everybody. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.